He was only 28, but most days he felt twice his age. His mornings began the same way: the shrill alarm, a groggy walk to the bathroom, and a hurried sip of coffee that barely cut through the fog. He worked in a small office, tucked behind glass walls and fluorescent lights, where the hours stretched endlessly, filled with keystrokes and meetings that never seemed to matter. Life had become predictable, almost mechanical, and with each passing day he felt himself fading into the background of his own existence. There was no sharp tragedy that brought him here, no dramatic fall to blame. Instead, it was the slow erosion of time, the subtle weight of routine pressing down on him. He carried a quiet ache in his chest, a feeling that life was moving forward without him, that he was merely an observer rather than a participant. Nights were no better. He would return home exhausted, collapse on the couch, and lose himself in television until sleep claimed him. Then the cycle repeated. He wondered when he had lost the fire that once burned so brightly. As a teenager, he dreamed of doing something meaningful, something that would leave a mark. But now, even small tasks felt overwhelming. He procrastinated on projects, avoided phone calls, and convinced himself that tomorrow he would try harder. Tomorrow never seemed to arrive. The silence of his apartment became a mirror, reflecting back the hollowness he felt inside. What hurt most was not the lack of success, but the absence of joy. He could not remember the last time he woke up excited for the day ahead. The laughter of others felt distant, like music played behind a wall he could not cross. He envied the people around him who seemed to move with purpose, while he trudged along with heavy steps, uncertain of where he was going. At times he blamed himself, believing he was simply too weak to change. Other times he blamed life, telling himself that not everyone was meant for happiness. Deep down though, he knew he longed for something more, something that could bring light back into his days. But change felt impossible, like a mountain too steep to climb. He carried on, convincing himself that this was just the way life would always be. What he did not know was that a single, almost invisible shift was waiting just ahead, a habit so simple, yet so powerful, that it would quietly begin to turn his entire life around. It began quietly, almost unnoticed, on a morning that felt like every other. He sat slouched at his desk, the weight of another long day pressing against his shoulders. That was when his older co-worker, Mr. Adams, stopped by. He was a man with silver in his hair and calm in his eyes, someone who carried himself with a steadiness that seemed out of place in the restless office. He asked a simple question, not about work, but about how he was really doing. For a moment, he hesitated, tempted to give the usual empty answer. But something in the older man's gaze made him pause, and the truth slipped out. He was tired, more tired of life than of work. Mr. Adams didn't rush to fix him or offer grand advice. Instead, he shared a story of his own younger days, of feeling stuck, of wrestling with the same quiet emptiness. Then, with a gentle smile, he mentioned something small that helped him back then. He said he had begun each day by writing down one simple thing he was grateful for. Just one. Not a long list, not a deep meditation, just a moment of noticing. At first, he almost dismissed it. How could such a small habit matter? It sounded too simple, almost childish. But Mr. Adams' calm conviction lingered in his mind. That evening, in the stillness of his apartment, he decided to try. With an old notebook, he wrote down his first line. "I am grateful for the warmth of my coffee this morning." It felt awkward, almost meaningless, yet a faint spark stirred within him. The next day, he added another. "I am grateful for the way the sunlight touched my window." Slowly, each day, the notebook grew with fragments of his life he had never noticed before. At times he struggled, staring at the page, feeling he had nothing to be thankful for. But even then, he forced himself to find one small thing: a smile from a stranger, the softness of his blanket, the simple gift of breathing. Weeks passed, and though his job and routine stayed the same, something subtle began to shift inside him. He noticed moments of peace where before there had only been dullness. The heaviness that once weighed on him still came, but it no longer crushed him in the same way. The habit was like a thread, weaving small lights into the fabric of his days. He did not yet realize how powerful this practice would become, how it would change not only the way he saw life, but the way he saw himself. For now, it was just a gentle spark, flickering but steady, quietly guiding him toward a new way of living. Months had passed since he began the habit, and though his daily life looked much the same from the outside, inside he was no longer the same man. The simple act of writing one line of gratitude each day had reshaped the way he saw the world. It was as if a lens had been lifted from his eyes. Where he once saw only grey routine, now he noticed shades of light and color. A walk to work no longer felt like drudgery, yet became a chance to see the morning sky. Even the chatter of co-workers, which once annoyed him, now reminded him of the simple connection of human voices. The shift was not sudden, and it was not always easy. Some mornings he still woke heavy, with doubts whispering that his efforts were meaningless. Yet each time he sat with his notebook, each time he forced himself to notice even the smallest gift, he felt a quiet strength building. He realized that gratitude was not about denying his struggles or pretending life was perfect. It was about seeing that even in the midst of hardship, beauty and meaning could still be found. This one habit became a mirror, reflecting back a version of himself he thought he had lost: the dreamer, the hopeful, the one who believed life was worth living fully. His confidence began to grow, not in a loud or boastful way, but as a steady assurance that he could face what came his way. He stopped waiting for some grand change to arrive, and instead embraced the power of small, consistent steps. The people around him noticed the difference. His co-workers saw the quiet smile that often touched his face. His friends sensed a calmness in his voice. Even Mr. Adams, the man who had shared the habit with him, nodded knowingly when he saw the light in his eyes. One evening, as he wrote in his notebook, he paused and looked back through the pages. Each line was a fragment of his life, tiny reminders that joy had always been present, waiting to be seen. He realized that the one habit that turned his life around had not changed the world outside him. Instead, it had changed the world within him, and that was enough. He closed the notebook gently, feeling a warmth spread through him. For the first time in years, he did not dread tomorrow. He welcomed it, knowing that even in its ordinary moments, life could hold something beautiful. Sometimes the greatest transformations begin not with sweeping change, but with the quiet discipline of noticing. One simple habit can soften the edges of our pain and remind us that life, even in its smallest details, is worth cherishing. If this story touched you, perhaps it is time to ask yourself what habit could help you see life differently. If you found meaning here, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, so these stories can reach others who may need a gentle reminder of hope. And maybe, just maybe, you'll carry this light into someone else's life too.